Good afternoon, good evening, good night, everybody. Happy Friday the 13th. If you are so inclined to celebrate that, which is not really a holiday, but happy Valentine's Day. If you've got sweethearts out there, get ready. Make sure
It's
you.
more of a holiday, Valentine's Day or Friday the 13th, okay? Valentine's Day is just stupid. And by the way, we'll have Friday the 13th again next.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It's a monthly occurrence. But for those of you who partake of the Cupid's Arrow Day, happy Valentine's Day. Hope you guys get to do something fun with your sweeties this weekend. I am your host here today, Dave Unger, coming to you here tonight to talk to you about this new episode of Game Gone Wrong, which quickly is starting to determine that nothing is going wrong with this season of A Night of Seven Kingdoms so far. And here tonight, we will be reviewing episode 4 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is called Seven. And we kind of have expanded the title of that to this live stream to really get into it. That is a trial of 7 that we will be talking about here tonight. But of course, I am not alone. I'm here welcomed by my two besties in the world as far as Game of Thrones goes on. I'm going to welcome him into the show first, the man with the award-winning beard in podcasting, operating off of a much faster computer. He's actually sitting here drinking alcohol tonight. It must be Friday night. It must be possibly a long weekend. Cheers, my friend. The one and only, the man from the Mindless Wrestling Podcast, DJ. What is up, brother?
I am on a Friday night facing a nice, long 4-day weekend.
Woo!
And I ain't got shit to do. Got a little bit of responsibilities tomorrow. Got some grocery shopping. Got a tattoo consult in the afternoon. But beyond that, I got 4 days of just fucking R&R, and I'm looking forward to it, man.
Nice. And of course, welcoming in here, he looks like he's about to pledge allegiance to something. I'm not sure what's going on there. It is the one and only, it is the Olympic season, so Tunney is showing his allegiance. The one and only PC Tunney. Tunney, how you doing, man?
Phenomenal, like outright, just divine.
Wow. I sense a bit of sarcasm.
No, I'm good.
Here,
It's warming up here.
Not.
Snow's melting. Grass is getting drier. People were at the driving range. I'm happy. I'm ready to let's.
Ooh,
hey, maybe
right.
that Punxsutawney guy was right. Maybe we will have an early spring.
That Punxsutawney guy. Maybe he was right. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, good stuff all the way around. We are thrilled to have you in here to talk to you guys about this episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Should be a good one. I'm trying to find where's our post at, Tunney. I'm just trying to see. Are we live?
Yeah, that's what I've been searching. It is. When I click on you as live and your thing, it goes to a stream that I'm watching, but I don't see it as a post on X right now.
Huh. That is very strange. Very strange indeed. Let's see.
I just got the notification that it was up.
But you don't find it in Dave's stream.
I'm staring at our three lovely faces as I speak. So
okay, that's cool with me. I'm cool with it. We're just gonna keep rolling. It's up. All right. So anyway, hopefully we'll find it somewhere over there on X, but you never know. I'll look on my phone while we're at it.
It's up,
but anyway,
you can't retweet it or anything.
The heck is that all about? What is going on?
I think I can find a way to do this.
There's always something.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine, man. I'm just trying to find it myself. It's very strange. Why open live video? All right, I'm trying. You're right. It is strange. There's people, but you can't retweet it.
Just send a post out. You can copy the link, but there's not an Attitude of Aggression post. It's just live. It's just a live link. Maybe there's something that changed in X. Yeah. I don't know. Because if you look at my feed now, I copied the link and posted it, and you can see it running. So thanks to the 10 people that found the link. Basically, though, if you go to Attitude of Aggression, Attitude AGG, and if you just hit like the live thing underneath your avatar, that'll take you to it, which is weird that they don't have a post anymore.
Who knows, man? Elon may have just screwed this whole thing up. I found it here, what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Every time they update, some bullshit happens.
Anyway.
So, wow. I
don't
get it, but I just
let me
did
make
this
sure
Monday
I'm also
night
paying
and
attention to
better.
the chat in there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Mike's telling us we're live. We're live, pal.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Thanks for letting us know that we're not all completely insane, just moderately.
We're insane.
Thanks for tuning in, Mike.
Insane. It's okay.
Woo!
We can
shout out to Mike.
Yeah,
Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Awesome. All right. This episode that we're talking about, episode 4 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Most people are saying best episode of the season so far. I think that's pretty much a given that I would have to agree with that. And I mean, just before we get into dive into the details, would you guys concur that this was the best episode of the season so far? I think
I'd
we
say
kind of suspected
I
it
think
would
the
be,
third episode was
but
better. I do.
do you?
No, this was, yeah. Like I all unanimously agreed. Episode 3, we were all fully locked in. This has got me hook, line, sinker. Now we'll talk about it. We'll talk. I don't want to spoil anything because we save it for the whole entirety of the show. But yeah, this was awesome.
Awesome stuff. All right. So let us get into this whole thing and see what's going on. Yeah, I have no idea why this thing is not. Thank you, Tunney, for finding where we were. I appreciate that. All right. So anyway, so fucking strange.
He's the best intern in the business.
Dynamite drop in, Monty. Those broadcasting
One
lessons
of these
are really
days
paying
I'll
off,
get
so
hired on for full time.
So when this episode gets started, what we end up with at the beginning of this is, we had all sorts of where we ended up at the end of episode 3 was Egg basically coming in here, saving Dunk from a horrific fate. Certainly was going to be killed or worse. And that's where the episode ended, with Egg finally revealing that he was the Targaryen. He is Aegon Targaryen, and we were speculating, well, what happens next? What happens with Dunk? What's going to happen with this relationship between them? And you find out pretty quick what's going on, as Dunk is imprisoned for striking Aerion. He punched him in the face, kicked him in the face. He's sitting in a cell. The Targaryens are weighing the options as to what they're going to do with him. And Egg comes in to see him and basically bring him some food, because apparently Dunk hasn't eaten since this whole thing just kind of went down. And you get the moment between Dunk and Egg where they bare their souls, and they kind of talk about sort of, they don't really get into the whole details of why Egg did what he did, other than to get away from the situation he found himself in, and his, what's his brother's name? I'm trying to remember what his brother's name is.
Dayron?
Huh? Dayron, yeah. Who, he's a drunkard and he's got all these issues and that sort of thing. But it's a really powerful scene because it does tie into what we talked about on the last episode that we did, that the relationship between these two was going to be tested. And it was tested very quickly in this episode, where they're talking to each other, and Dunk's clearly hurt by what Egg has done. Egg is clearly, upset by the fact that he had to lie to Dunk, and he certainly didn't mean to cause any harm, even though he kind of sort of did. But they seem to, and even Dunk's telling Egg to dry your eyes, none of that shit. It's like, there's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in the dungeons, that sort of things. They don't exactly reconcile completely when this is going on, but they seem to reach a bit of an understanding by the time this first scene ends. So, Tunney, I'll go to you first. The big thought we had was, how are these guys going to get beyond this? Are they going to be able to get beyond this? And they kind of do. It's not perfect, but there's at least a semi sort of understanding of what's going on that you find here.
Dunk doesn't have a choice but to get over it quickly. He doesn't want to. Egg is a good kid, but at the same time, he's spoiled. And he does whatever he wants, and he doesn't understand ramifications whatsoever. His reasoning was, my brother's a drunkard and a shit knight, and I wanted to be a squire. Well, that sounds like a spoiled fucking brat to me. That's what that sounds like. So I'm going to run away from home where I have everything, and I'm one of the most pampered kids in the entire 7 kingdoms, right? But because I can't be a squire, and I'm going to cause... Now, granted, he's a good kid, and this is the story. And I was wondering how quick they were going to get over this, and the circumstances that were allowed it to happen very quickly, because Dunk doesn't have a choice but to have Egg as a companion as he sits in this cell. And by the way, what a cool opening to this episode, where you think you're seeing this starry, beautiful night in the middle of the meadow, and we zoom closer up, and it's the fucking ceiling of his cell with the stalactites and stalagmites in miniature form on the top of the cave he's sitting in. So yeah, it's funny too how much he's hungry, and then when he finds out, I'm not going to keep dude waiting, I'm not hungry anymore, we can go. That was kind of an interesting transition. So great opening scene. Great. Just great.
Yep. Deej, what were your thoughts about the opening scene of this episode?
I viewed it a little differently than Tunney did. Enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought it was great. I think you got to remember, Dunk is very kind. Okay, he's a very kind and I think probably
Naive.
kind to a fault, forgiving to a fault. Yes, I agree with Tunney's assessment. Egg is a spoiled, rotten child, but he's also a child. And as a parent of children, children don't always make wise decisions in the interest of trying to get what they want. And I think Dunk is kind enough and gentle-hearted enough to look at him and go, okay, yes, he's a spoiled ass rich kid, but he's still just a kid. And his family are full of shits, And one brother's a drunk, the other one's an asshole. His other one's the reason I'm in this joint. So he's probably looking internally at the totality of this is like, okay, I don't like what he did. It hurt me that he lied to me, but at the same time, understanding that there may be more going on here with this kid and at least putting it aside enough to be understanding. That's what I read from this scene.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. That is a good way to look at it. It is an interesting interplay between the two of them as far as the dynamics of this evolving relationship, which have taken obviously from the first 3 episodes to this start of the fourth has taken a pretty significant shift in the tone of it, in the tenor of it, and just kind of where these guys are. We then, you start getting the idea that Arion is going to make this into a bigger deal than it's supposed to be, and the story starts getting pushed that Dunk actually kidnapped Egg and trying to really create this sense of hostility and escalate the whole situation against Dunk because he wants to make Dunk's punishment commensurate with what he thinks has been done to him, which is getting punched in the face, getting kicked in the face, getting embarrassed in front of all of his people. You don't do that to the dragon, and you get this whole thing. So Dunk's counter to that is that Arion's trying to escalate this. So Dunk's counter to that is trial by combat, which I think I think if I remember it correctly, it's Baylor who's the one who kind of says, "What are you going to do about this?" And you do have the right to trial by combat, which Dunk invokes that right, and then things are going to escalate. Yeah, because Baylor is urging him demand a trial by combat because he thinks it's kind of the question he's asking him is how good of a knight are you? Because I think Baylor wants to know one-on-one, can you kick his ass? Because if you can, then by all means invoke your right of trial by combat. If you can't, then we've got some other issues to talk about. But Baylor's probing Dunk to say, okay, can you take this dude one-on-one? Because you just beat the shit out of him in the tavern or the puppet place. Can you do it? How good of a knight are you? And that sort of thing. So, Tunney, I'll go to you first. Well, DJ, I'll go to you first on this part. Your thoughts about Baylor, really encouraging Dunk, invoke your right of trial by combat. How good are you? And the fact that there's this lie that's been perpetuated about him to try and make it so that when they say off with your head, everybody's like, yeah, that's cool. But
yeah.
Obviously that's not going to stand with him.
Refresh my memory real quick. Wasn't there a scene with just him, Baylor, and Egg before this meeting with the entire...
That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about with the dragon and his dad.
I thought we were talking about...
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Baylor gives Egg shit about what he did as well.
Right.
And then before he summarily dismisses him from the conversation,
right. He has
get out, and that sort of thing.
This just kind of piggybacks off of what I was just saying about Egg and Dunk a minute ago, because when Egg comes in there, he does tell Baylor he's a good kid. He's a good squire. So he's starting to understand. I think you're getting more of a sense here, and this will play out further in the episode, that Baylor knows what Arion is, and he's looking for somebody to take him down a peg, and he thinks Dunk may just be the guy, and that's why he challenges him. He's like, "Look, if you think you got it, go get it. Go take it from him." And it was a really powerful scene, but it's a really telling scene as we find out a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. Tunney, what'd you think of this with Baylor encouraging Dunk to take this path and just kind of really wondering, hey, how good are you?
I think the most important thing that happens is we get to know Baylor, right? Like if you can read between the lines, like you said, he's got a shit fuck nephew that he doesn't really want around anymore, right? And we're about to get to the next part of this and find out that there's other people in his family that kind of are like, yo, the fuck is wrong with you? So it's a major problem. And like you said, Baylor's just kind of like subtly and not so subtly by the end, finding a way to eradicate a
Hello,
future
April.
problem, it seems like.
Welcome to
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah. Hi, April. April may or may not. That's okay. That's open ended enough, I guess. So that's cool. Welcome on in. Where and anything you want to talk about as far as Night of the Seven Kingdoms, let us know. We'll be happy to see if we can't answer this, if we're at least able to do that. So good stuff all the way around. All right. So let's move on from where we were and get into this next aspect of the episode, because after Dunk invokes his right of combat, trial by combat, Arion's not going to let that shit stand. And he responds by calling for something very rare that has not been done in they say it's like 100 years or something before anybody actually, has invoked this whole thing. So he calls for a what is it, trial, because Dunk wants trial by combat. John says, I want a trial of 7. And they're all like, well,
Well,
what's that?
he doesn't know what
Dunk
it
doesn't know
is.
what it is. And then he doesn't know, but everybody else in the room clearly knows what it is. And they're all watching this and thinking to themselves, what the hell has he just done? And they're trying to talk him out of it, but Arion has he's got, I think April's talking about Makar, who is the father of Egg and
It,
Darion,
he's the
right?
brother.
I
Yeah,
don't
no,
think he's the
Baylor's the
king.
prince, right? So
Yeah.
Makar is
right. I think she
Makar
said
he's not thrilled with his son either. He's Egg's dad and his old no?
no. You're right. He's not thrilled with
Right.
Arion pulling this
Like
shit
he
either with this
drags him
trial of
out of
7.
the
He's like, what
fucking
the hell are
meeting
you
by
doing?
the end of it.
He does because in his mind, it's a sign of him being a coward. It's like, you can't take this dude one-on-one. You got to bring in all these other people and create this shit show of a situation where, it just kind of makes them look bad from the standpoint of, what are you doing, man? It's like, this is a situation where, it's just April saying Makar had a trial of 7 as well. Maybe I didn't get that from it, but that's
Yeah, I
possible.
must have missed that nuance. I'm taking April at her word here.
Yeah, I will too. I don't remember. It might have been something in the graphic novels or something, but I'm not gonna doubt it. He's trying to talk his son. One of his sons out of there. And yeah, something is sus about the trial. There's no
Very much
doubt
so.
that there's very much so that, and it gets even more sus as we go along here. And when we start thinking about the backstabbing and the things that are about to happen. But, as much as they try to talk Arion out of this whole situation, he will not relent. And it creates a situation now where 7 champions versus 7 champions to decide guilt or innocence. And this puts Dunk in a situation where he's got to recruit 6 other fighters. And of course, that's not going to be easy, because it's like, I thought when this happened, it's like, well, he went through all this shit just to get to the point where he could even get anybody to vouch for him enough that he could enter the lists in the first place. Now, you've got this whole other situation where, he's got to go and find 6 other people to jump in here with him. He's kind of confident that he can maybe find a couple of these dudes. But beyond that, there's no way that they're going to, the odds of him finding 6 people to jump in on his side seem awfully large and weighted against him. So, Tunney, I'll go to you first. Your thought about this invocation of the trial of 7 and just the kind of the backlash that it is. It is just this feeling of in the room as this is happening, of this kind of like, oh Jesus, he's really going to go here and do this, and there's a sense of not dread but some foreboding about this whole situation escalating to where no one wants it to go. But what do you think of this whole scene where the trial of 7 first kind of becomes an issue? And these guys are
Well,
like, okay.
it's obvious the request because he needs backup, and he knows that Dunk doesn't have any backup, right? So it's a brilliant tactical move, right? The little history, Magor, who what April was talking about, was a sole survivor of a trial by 7, like the only one to walk out of it. So it's really interesting to see what's going to happen with this 7. Is who's going to walk out? Is Arian actually going to die? Does Baylor want to just teach him a lesson and he'll stop it because he has the ability to do that, right? Like, I mean, as a prince, you pretty much can decide whatever you want, right? Like, this is not democracy at all. So I'm really interested to see what happens with this battle, but yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be it'll be a fun fight, and how I mean, obviously one-on-one as far as, like April saying, Dunk's likely not a knight, not a formal knight. He's a hedge knight, that sort of thing. But, whether that matches up to the kind of he certainly has not been trained like Arion has, that sort of thing, and has not had a formalized training program where he's jousting, riding, all doing all this stuff. So I think when it comes down to knight versus knight, if sheer force, sure, Dunk's got an advantage, but from pure knight skills, so that's going to be a different story entirely. But Deej, what do you think of this scene where we get the trial of seven all set up and invoked and that sort of thing?
Like you were just saying, we know that, Dunk is this big, massive, imposing guy, but we don't know what kind of swordsman he is. We don't know what kind of swordsman Arion is. So, there's a lot of question marks in the air. My favorite part of the whole scene, and being a dad, you can relate to this, was when Aaron's dad yokes him up because he's mad at him it's like, what are you doing? You're embarrassing the entire family by doing this, yokes him up and escorts him out of the room. Every dad that's ever had a kid who's done something dumb in a room full of people has been that dad. That was my favorite part of the whole scene.
Yeah, it's a good one. That's a good thought. I don't know. I mean, it's a fun fun exercise to engage in, but I do think Tunney's right that with Arion knowing that this guy couldn't find one person to vouch for him, there's no way he's going to find six dudes who are going to die for him, that sort of thing. So
And April's right. He does mention that he thought he would just be a squire for someone else. I remember that part.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. From there, we get, the plot thickens, obviously, and we get the team starting to come together. So he's out there recruiting people. He gets some support initially from Sir Stefan, who is Raymond Fossaway's, I don't know if it's his cousin or something like that, right, guys?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And they're doing all that. And he's the one who sit there and indicates that, that he'll go and he'll be on Dunk's side for this trial of seven, which is like, okay, great. He could fight. He's a good fighter. He's definitely a knight. He's not somebody who's just kind of maybe kind of sort of pretending to be a knight, that sort of thing. So he can do all of this sort of stuff. And they mention something in this whole scene in the tavern where this kind of comes up, was that they mention, they talk about the Targaryens and the dragons and all that. And like what we talked about before, where are all those dragons, right? I think Raymond is the one who says, where are those dragons? There's none left. Questioning why are these guys still so regarded so highly when all of their power has been stripped away from them? This is a good point. I think it's in this scene where Egg is indicating he can find some people. And Dunk really doesn't know what's going to become of him. He's just hoping, Dunk is great in this stuff because he's just flying by the seat of his pants. He's really just hoping that this shit all works out for him, right? And maybe this will all turn out well in the end and good in the end, but he does. There's no plan here. He's just, literally using the force. I hope this all comes together, that sort of thing. So, Tunney, your thoughts on this scene in the tavern where, at least for a moment, it seems like Sir Stefan is going to jump into the fray for Dunk and give him a pretty solid somebody to fight for him. Of course, we don't know at this point that what we're about to find out. Well, go ahead. We'll jump.
Yeah,
into
it's
that
a moment of hope, right? When there really is none, and it kind of happens too quickly. It was kind of like a little bit too good to be true. The guy kind of comes off a little bit of a. I was suspicious, to be honest with you, especially when he was talking about, Dunk's buddy not being knight worthy really either. I thought they kind of got into that conversation as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a moment of, hey, wow, he was surprised that he was going to fight with him. So it's interesting. Very interesting scene there, DJ.
Yeah, it was. It was one of the things that the Game of Thrones series has always done really well, is give you those little glimmers of hope. And they've done this throughout the entire universe. You'll have like these little scenes where you're like, okay, things might get really good here. Like, this is great. This is going to go our way. And then they rip it away from you just a little bit later, as we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Very, very well done.
Yeah, I love the scene, and it does, like Tunney says, it does give you that moment where you think, hey, there's some hope here. Maybe something good's going to happen out of this whole thing. After this happens, Dunk spends the night kind of pondering things, and he shows up at the arena next morning. And this is when, as he's trying to see who's he got on his team, we get the big reveal that Stefan has betrayed him. He's flipped to Arion's side. In fact, what Stefan indicates is basically the second he told Dunk, I'm on your side, he went running right to Arion and basically said, what are you going to give me if I flip to your side and that sort of thing. And so then you get this whole scenario where, he flips. It is in pro wrestling parlance, it is the heel turn. It's even probably a double turn almost a little bit. So it was kind of fun to see that. You should have expected it to kind of go down that way. So Stefan's on his side. This leaves Dunk in a really tough spot where, he's like, we only need like, what did he say? Like 5 more. And he's like, no, 6 more, that sort of thing, because I'm flipping to the other side. So no, I think he's got, because a bunch of other people have shown up by this point in time for him, right? And Stefan was going to be the one to give him the 7th. And now he needs he's at least a man short. And Dunk is basically saying, hey, look, we'll go against you 6 on 7. And they say, no, you can't do that. That's against the rules. It has to be 7 on 7 or you lose. You're guilty. And that sort of thing. So then Dunk makes this impassioned plea, which, this speech that he gives really kind of it's like I'm sitting there going, man, this is some Braveheart Aragorn shit at the Black Gate sort of speech going with. Sorry, Tunney, you don't know what that is because I know you're a big game of Lord of the Rings fans, but DJ knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. I got the reference.
Yeah, so, but it's William Wallace, it's Aragorn, it's all this sort of stuff, who will fight for me, all this stuff. And he's really, and Dunk goes from being in this scene from being just kind of easygoing and take it as it comes sort of situation to being very assertive. It's the first time you see this. And I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more of that, where he comes in and he says, is anybody going to stand up with me? Is anybody going to show any courage, any bravery? And this one mountain of a dude stands up and you're like, yeah, this guy can fight, but it's really just to, rip a fart and make fun of Dunk. And then, and everything looks really bad before we get to the very end. And I just want to stop there and set the stage where DJ, I'll go to you first, where, Dunk's a man short. They are short-handed.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to have to step up or this is game over. You don't even get to fight. You're just guilty as sin and it's all over. And his speech is really good. I thought he really turned it on in this moment and made this impassioned plea. And you got to see that fire in Dunk that we have not seen yet, but you get to see it here. And it looks good for a moment, but it's literally a wet fart in church.
It
That
really
sort of
was
situation without the church part,
without the
so
church
to
part.
speak.
Although he was holding court, Dunk was. He was up there. He was letting them have it, man.
He was preaching.
It was a great speech.
And then we got a wet fart, by the way, too.
We
That's
did.
what I was saying.
The double heel turn.
It was a little moist.
The double heel turn from Stefan pissed me off because I was like, at the end of the last scene, I'm like, all right, maybe this guy's not such a prick. And then I'm like, and it went literally from that to this son of a bitch. Here we are. He's down 2 people. He's down 1 person now. They're telling him if you don't find somebody, he gives the speech. Nobody answers. And he's like, look, as knights, we are sworn to protect the innocent. This is what we're sworn to do. And, he's pleading his innocence and nobody answers. Or do they? Tunney.
Yeah, Tunney.
That one dude was really big guy. He stood up and then he just ripped one. Yeah.
He was mountain sized.
He was a big ass dude.
I thought of the mountain from the original series, and I'm like, oh, this guy's got it. He's a bit, and people they even knew who he was when he stood up. It's like, oh, this guy, this is gonna change the dynamics of this fight. This is gonna level the playing field. Well, not exactly.
I think, we talked about earlier Baylor clearly having a problem with Arion, right? So I think regardless of whether or not Dunk came up with 7, he was going to have some impact on what was going to happen. So, yeah. The speech was great, but at the same time,
well,
it's funny though. I didn't think he would have a problem finding people considering how much Arion was hated and what had happened with the horse and everything else. And people were already ready to beat his ass that night. So who was,
Right. Well, talk about some of the guys who jump in for him. Raymond jumps in and he's asking to be knighted by Dunk. And Dunk's, obviously his attention is put somewhere else.
Yeah,
but Lionel Baratheon jumps up, and our second favorite Lionel, he jumps up and he has been, and you quickly realize here in that 4th episode that this is probably Dunk's biggest ally, or at least so it seems until this last scene happens. And Lionel, who and as eccentric as he was in that 1st episode, and just kind of the way he was in the 2nd episode, walking away from the tug of war in the middle of it and coming back. It's cool that when the chips are down, when Dunk absolutely positively had to have somebody, Lionel steps up and says, I'm here. And he's the one who knights Raymond. So, but it does leave them 1 guy short. And things are looking bad until you get the moment of the series so far, which
Bum.
is, to use pro wrestling parlance again, this is the Ultimate Warrior running down at the WrestleMania 8, right? This is what it is.
Coming down to save Hulk Hogan's ass.
Dude, it really is. It's like Hulk's tied in the ropes, Sid and Papa Shango are beat up, and Bobby Heenan, he doesn't have a friend left. Dunk doesn't have a friend left, and then the Warriors music hits, and it's fucking Prince Baylor who comes in, reveals the hood, and to the shock of Makar, who's sitting there like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's just like, he's like, I'm in. I forget what exactly he says at that point, but he says something pretty good. But this turns this in. He's Dunk's 7th champion. And now you've got this whole new dynamic that goes in here, that now you've got Targaryen versus Targaryen. And Baylor is, and you could tell by the reaction of Makar that he's like, oh, shit, this is not so good, because I'm pretty sure he knows that Baylor is a hell of a fighter and a legit knight who can truly level the playing field a little bit. It is the quintessential fist pump moment, whatever you want to call it. It is the epic moment of the episode so far. It is a moment where you really get charged up and say, bring on episode 5, because now we've got some real stuff going on here. I'll go to Tunney first on this one. Your thought, Baylor coming in here, revealing he's the 7th champion and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, man, what'd you think of that? That's it. It is the moment of the series so far.
Baylor comes in, reveals, and pronounces, I will take Sir Duncan's side. To which Makar replies, have you lost your senses? This man attacked my son. To which Baylor responds firmly, this man protected the innocent, as every true knight must. Let the gods decide if he was right or wrong.
That's right. Perfect. And what a great, and I mean, that just sets the stage, and what a great line that he says right at the exact moment when you really want to hear it the most.
Think about all the series you've ever watched, right? Just a series like entertainment, fictional series. We've watched so many. Have there ever been back-to-back episodes with greater endings to the episodes than 3 and 4 of this fucking season? We Dunk gets the reveal that Egg is a Targaryen at 3, and 4, Baylor joins Dunk. Like, there are 2 episodes where it's just like,
yeah. As far as the series is concerned, I mean, when I know House of the Dragon has had some epic moments as well, and that sort of thing. Game of Thrones, you can probably say, find some stuff like that as well, but you're right. The 2 episodes are bookended around each other, and they're just so good as far as the things that they do and how these 2 episodes end and that sort of thing. I think, the idea that Makar is so offended by, this whole situation, but Baylor is, he is, and it's funny, we've talked about the Targaryens so much in the past that, they have that insanity gene that is generational, maybe skips a generation here and there. Baylor clearly doesn't have that, because he's like, no, man, Dunk did what you're supposed to do as a knight. Let the gods decide his fate. I'm gonna jump in here for him, and we'll see what happens. DJ, I know you absolutely love this moment. You were talking about it, how much you thoroughly enjoyed what happened here with Baylor coming in here and being the 7th to make this truly a trial of 7. And we are off and running for what's going to be an epic 5th episode, right? But what do you think of Baylor jumping in here and leveling the playing field?
Thought it was great. I thought it was great. And now we've got added tension amongst the Targaryen family, and that just adds another layer to this already layered show. And it's the general consensus that I get from people that in my orbit that I follow that are keeping an eye on this. It's more than just a return to form for the Game of Thrones universe. A lot of people are saying with these 2 episodes, piggybacking off what Tunney said, back-to-back episodes that make this must-watch appointment viewing television again. Like the first 2 to 3 seasons of Game of Thrones was appointment viewing. It's like, God, I can't wait till next Sunday so the next episode comes out. It was like that. And now this is what it is. And there's a part of me, while I appreciate the fact that they're only 30-minute episodes, I hate the fact that they're 30-minute episodes because I want more, but they're doing so much with that 30 minutes. The pacing and timing of this show is just incredible. That moment was a true goosebump moment for me. And it's rare that I get that.
You hit it on the head. The pacing is perfect, right? Like they pick their open and closes like money. Like, here's our story. Let's boom, 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 boom. And you brought it up, so let's talk about it. Approved before we even saw the premiere season 2, do we think season 2 the episodes get longer?
No, I tell you that it seems like this 30-minute, 35, 40-minute time frame. It's a sweet spot because look at what Wonder Man did,
Dude.
right? Wonder Man was the same sort of thing with that 30 to 40 minute sort of time frame or even
if you're
less.
a Marvel fan or a comic book fan outside of Game of Thrones universe, go watch Wonder Man. It's so refreshingly good and different from every streaming DC Marvel thing you've seen live action so far.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, I mean, we've seen a proliferation of shows that have kind of gone in that direction, like going for that shorter form. 25 to maybe 25 is too short, but 30 to 40 minutes seems to be like where people are liking that sort of thing. And it makes sense that this generation and just the way that we consume product now is like this ADD sort of mentality where you kind of go into that whole thing and think, I don't know. I don't know if season 2 gets more, but maybe a little bit. Maybe they start going more towards that 40-minute sort of thing, Tunney. I think that may be possible. But at the end of this thing, and we all right, yeah, you guys are responding to April, who's complaining that her keys are tiny. We have problems with anyway. I'm not going to go there. We're just going to leave it alone. We're going to leave that alone. So I think like the previews for the next episode, which if you stick around and watch it, certainly indicate that the trial of 7 happens and it's at least starting. I don't foresee that being completed in one episode. I think they'll drag this out because, well, maybe not.
Think about
Go ahead, Tunney. What do you think?
Game of Thrones. Think about House of the Dragon even. It's always been the second to last episode of a season finishes what we were building towards, and then the last episode kind of ties it up. But to your point, though, if we're getting the second season, does that pacing kind of hit again, right? It's a little bit different than Game of Thrones. It's more closer to House of the Dragon with the pacing.
It's tough because you can't drag the trial of 7 out for 2 episodes. I mean,
you could have it
too much.
About to come to an end and then end it, and then you see the ending of the trial of 7 immediately. I don't know.
I anticipate that we will get to the end of the 7 where at the end of this episode, the only 2 left are Arion and Dunk. It's going to be Arion Dunk one-on-one at the end of this thing because I'm pretty sure it comes down to something like that. Or, now if they deviate from source material, if they keep to the source material, that's one thing. But I think for dramatic effect, you want to see that one-on-one fight at the end, right? I mean, that's what we've got to get is Dunk versus Arion at the end in a night-on-night challenge where you get to the point where if there is any question to the legitimacy of Dunk as a true knight, as April has mentioned during the chat here, and sorry, I can't respond to all of it, April. We're just trying to keep on track with the episode. But it's a situation where if Dunk's legitimacy as a knight is being called into question, he's got to beat this dude one-on-one to put that to rest, right? Well, I think you got it. What do you think, DJ? Am I right about that?
The legitimacy of Dunk as a knight is so stupid because he could just turn around to Lionel and be like, "Knight me." But Baylor has basically already accepted that he's a knight and he's the fucking prince because he let him in the tournament. So I don't think that that's in question at all. I think that's, I don't know. Dave, you and April know a lot more than DJ and I do because we didn't read the books. So
yeah, I didn't read the book.
Maegor, by the way, is the son of Arion, who's a generation ahead of where we're at. Maegor, Arion, Maegor. So that's where we're at.
Arion. Yeah, right. These guys and their names, it's all Paul and Paulie and
fucking
Marie.
Dave
that's a
and
different
DJ
movie. That's
and
good,
Tunney.
fellas.
What
Sorry.
stupid fucking names those are.
I would suggest something slightly different. Now, like you said, without having read the books, I'm purely spitballing here. This is Game of Thrones. They do like to end their seasons on huge cliffhangers or some big shocking thing happening. My suggestion for episode 5 may be that they get ready to start the tourney, and then we go on a side quest with a flashback for someone.
They are showing that
Egg, trying to figure out why Egg abandoned his family. I didn't see the preview. When the episode ended, HBO kicked me right into the next show. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing?
You got to hit the button to say watch the credits.
I didn't see that
because there's 8 minutes. It's the preview for the next episode, and they go behind the scenes for the episode you just watched.
I didn't.
Absolutely worth it. But they do what you're talking about, DJ. So you're onto something. That they do a flashback of Dunk as a kid.
Okay.
And kind of how he ends up with Arlen a little bit. I don't think they're gonna take a lot of time with that, but you could very well get
Do you
something like
think
that
though
going on where if they wanna stretch it out, they
so
can
there's
do
these
that,
flashbacks
but
as Dunk as a kid in the next episode? Okay, I think that this is
yes.
gonna be put into times where he's near death in this battle. He's thinking back, it's a flashback in his mind.
He's remembering lessons. He's
'Cause
remembering when
they've
he got
done a
his
lot
ass
of that.
beat.
They've done a lot of that in key
Yeah,
moments where he'd flash back to stuff, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see. I think that the final episode ends with the trial by seven, and we get some type of either shocking moment or some type of cliffhanger at the end of the final episode of the season. I
I
don't
think
think they
epis
dedicate all of five to this tournament.
No, probably half and half. They'll do half flashback and then they'll get it going. And I think my guess is they'll do that and then but I don't even remember what they did in the book as far as how it all comes about. But I think you could have half the episode showing Dunk's backstory a little bit more to endear himself because he's going to be put in peril many times in this fight. You get that. We probably get at least half of the trial, which is whittling down to where it's just one on one because I think episode 6, the last episode, starts off with this battle between Dunk and Arion, and then that resolves, and then you get to see kind of set the stage for what's going to happen next season, and they end it with the big threat. So what's happening in season 2? What's the big threat that Dunk has to go and conquer? And that's kind of what I remember how the graphic novel sort of went in that direction, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, these guys, they never stick to the source material strictly. Although this one's been
The
doing
actual
pretty well
written
so
source
far.
material they do, the stuff that is unfinished,
Yeah.
Well, we
Finish the
know, George.
damn
We know,
book.
finish the damn book, George. That'd be nice, and then we wouldn't have to
Arr.
make this shit up. But arg, arg, yeah. Yeah. What else are you guys looking forward to? It. I mean, we've broken it down, but what are you looking forward to in episode 5, other than the tournament starting, or not? It's not the tournament. I got to get away from saying it's not the tournament. It's the trial. This is the trial of 7. Other than that, getting going. What do you guys think?
I really we've reached that crescendo, and that's what I want to see. I want to see the fight, and I want to see how it ends, and if it really ends, or if this carries over into season 2. Like I feel like we may not get a full resolution here.
May not. We may not. I think it's a risky move to make though. To just kind of leave it in more va- more vast and empty landscapes. April's really upset about the scenery here in these episodes, but well, I mean, and the problem is, of course, you're isolated to this one place, Ashford, that sort of thing, which doesn't help the whole thing. But yeah, maybe it's a risky play though to not have some sort of resolution here in season 1, because there is more to the story, and season 2, if they follow the source material, deals with a much bigger threat than Aeron Targaryen, and that's kind of all I'll really get into at this point. But there's a bigger thing looming that where Dunk's knightliness, I guess you can call it, is a big key in that whole thing. But I don't know, Tunney, what do you think, man? Before we call it good
I
here
think
tonight.
this whole battle ends in this episode, the next episode. And I think the last episode we get the aftermath and then the next threat or whatever you're talking about. But yeah, it's just I love it. I'm so happy. Like I was so happy that House of the Dragon was good. And now I'm so happy that this is really, really good. And the lingerings of a possible West of Westeros, post Game of Thrones series coming is out there now. So let's make it all happen. Let's just make dreams come true, guys. Okay? That's what we do here.
Yeah. Let's get some dreams going, and that sort of thing. And maybe George will finish the book one day, but I don't think that's probably not happening. But it's a great series so far. It has been, and I love the fact that, and we talked about it the last episode, then I promise I'll shut up and get us out of here. But like on the last episode, we talked about how the script got flipped or the switch got turned on where it went from, kind of fun and jovial and low key and, oh, haha, this is all campiness and this is so lighthearted. And then it switched into Game of Thrones immediately. And this episode had none of that lighthearted campiness. This was a full on Game of Thrones episode. You had all the earmarks of a Game of Thrones. You had drama, you had tension, you had betrayals, you had, all this high drama shit going on right up to the end where you get this big reveal that changes the dynamics of everything. So they are in the slot right now.
Yeah, and Dunk's character progression in the last 5 minutes of this last episode,
Yes.
incredible. Just he goes from just this soft kind of questioning guy to almost a soldier's
One
mentality
thing
in
we
a very
didn't
short
talk
period of
about
time.
was Dunk getting his shield.
You're
Well, that's
right.
right.
We didn't
And
even
like
gloss over that.
he didn't understand it. He thought it was like death. And his maker had to point it out to him that, dude, you're the elm that's healthy and surviving around all of this chaos. And that was really
Yeah.
meaningful, I think. And
Well,
yeah.
well, yeah, and the job that Tansel did with that, she got it perfectly what they asked, all that sort of thing. Yeah, I wish we could put it up live for you, April. We run into it. I wish it was that easy, but you actually have to do stuff and prepare the clips to get it to actually upload. And if I'd known in advance, I would have done it. And then HBO would have only hit us with one copyright strike, but that's okay. Yeah, that sort of thing. Maybe next time we'll get that on there.
We're
for
used
you.
to
But,
that.
yeah. But Tansel did a great job with the shield, and the blacksmith basically gives it away for nothing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, because you remember the last episode where he's negotiating the price, and now he is a fan.
Slowly
He's a fan
starting
of
to
Dunk.
understand how important. And I would imagine that relationship holds steadfast moving forward.
Yeah, and you wonder where is Tansel? Maybe that you get some resolution for that in episode 6. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's a really good point. There's lots of subtle other little things that are going on in this episode that just make it so good. And I think at this point, we are now 2/3 of the way through the season. Any lingering doubts that anybody may have had that, is this show any good? I think those have been erased by now. And this next episode has the potential to be the best of all of them, because it's either there's going to be a flashback, yes, but whether it's 5 minutes or 15, there's going to be a lot of action, a lot of people dying. Stefan, I think he's going to get his comeuppance. He's going to get his ass kicked by his cousin, who he belittled and basically said, "You're just a little dude. You can't do anything." So you know how that works out. There's going to be a comeuppance for him and this sort of thing. And I think at the end of this whole trial, the guys who survive are going to be Dunk's big allies moving into season 2. Because like I said, there is a bigger threat out there for season 2 than just, spoiled, pampered boy who got his feelings and his fingers hurt because he got his ass kicked. Well, we are 100 years away from that, but you never know. But all right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Game Gone Wrong. Another excellent edition. Tunney, they're back on the normal schedule, right? It's Sunday night is when episode 5 comes out. It was just because of the Super Bowl. Yeah. Yeah. I said that the other night. He's like, can we say Super Bowl? It's like, shit, the game's over. We can say whatever we want now. We don't have to call it the big game anymore.
The super game.
The super game. Superb Owl. That was very clever what you did.
I stole
there,
that from
Tunney.
Steve
Very
Allen.
nicely done. Well, okay. Very good. Before we cut out of here, guys, let people know where can they check you out on all your social media outlets and the stuff that's going on. We are going to go to the man with the greatest beard in all of podcasting and the greatest abs in all of podcasting, sort of.
Yeah, I'm not challenging.
Mostly.
I don't know about all that. But
I'm not either. I'm not
there.
either. Take your shirt off, DJ. Broadcast shirtless,
all right, it's gonna
buddy.
be hairy.
Not going to do that
I'll
tonight,
do it.
man. It's rather...
Okay. Wasn't talking about you.
No, you can find myself, Rob, and Jason as a threesome on the Mindless Wrestling podcast. We air every weekend on the Chairshot Radio Network. I also have my own solo project I'm doing called 30 Mindless Minutes. You can find me there. I'm working on some new episodes for Tunney to get those uploaded for next week. And if you're so inclined and you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter, you can find me at The Mindless Pod.
Yeah, it's like that scene in Kingpin. Hi, not you. Hi. It's like no, not you. Don't take your shirt off. I was talking to DJ. So
maybe next episode I'll go shirtless.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I won't do like Rob and go pantsless like Winnie the Pooh.
That was a Chris Platt thing from back in the day too.
By the way, happy birthday to Chris Platt. His birthday was yesterday. I think make sure that everybody out there wish the real Christopher Platt a happy birthday. Tunney, the EVP of everything Chairshot Radio related. Your job's easy, man. Greg DeMarco and Patrick O'Dowd have put out episodes 2 weeks
we'll see him in another 4 months.
Like,
you can follow me at PC Tunney.
Yeah.
They came out of hibernation.
Follow me at PC Tunney.
Yeah,
Chairshot Radio Network, all your favorite streaming platforms, thechairshot.com, attitudeofaggression.com. Dave's done a phenomenal job with that website and so many different branches that we're having fun with over there. So yeah, good times tonight. Thanks to Mike and April and everybody else that's been listening. If you're listening, shoot us a line, whether it's X or YouTube, and we'll definitely shout you out. So thanks again to Mike and April.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys so much. And sorry again, April, we couldn't answer everything, but we try to keep this under an hour and we've been here too long. But like Tunney said, as far as I'm concerned, follow me on X at AttitudeAg. That's where I'm most active. Tunney mentioned the website attitudeofaggression.com. All the episodes are there. And I do want to say a big shout out and thank you to everybody for the live stream for Unidentified History the other night, the UAP Summit recap, which had the most number of live views, at least in the replay, that sort of thing. And I'm absolutely blown away by the number of people who tuned in for that. And I hope if anybody used or downloaded the notes from that, the summit recap, I hope that came in handy. So a big shout out. Thank you to everybody who tuned in for that. We really appreciate it. But attitudeofaggression.com is the website where I think we're going to bring the Big Five project is coming back. And that's coming up real soon now. So we got that going on with the pro wrestling stuff. We got more Unidentified History, Game of Thrones, or Game Gone Wrong, I should say. We'll be back next week to see just how this all turns out. Please check out the YouTube channel, Attitude of Aggression YouTube channel. And of course, I'm going to throw this out there because statistically, it seems like nobody is watching this show on Spotify. And I'm like, dude, I'm watching my own show on Spotify. Doesn't that count for something? But apparently, I don't know. But yeah, go check out the show on Spotify. I would say, as much as I love Apple, and this has been on Apple for 11 years, go watch the show on Spotify because I'm uploading the videos as well. So it's not just the audio, it's the actual video versions, the same ones that show up on YouTube. And they're not nearly as demanding as you would expect on copyright shit. They're like, yeah, whatever. Well, we don't have to go into that right
We've
now.
all been copyright dinged by Spotify.
Yeah. But yeah, whenever you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just please, if you like what we're doing, leave us a 5-star review. It gets back to all of us and we realize that, we know what we're doing and we're doing something entertaining. That is going to do it for this episode of Game Gone Wrong. So far, no complaints.
Not yet.
Episode 5 should be epic as well. Not yet. We'll see what happens, but that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, everybody take care out there. Stay safe. To Mike and April, again, thank you guys so much for engaging with us here tonight. And we'll be catching you soon for another episode of Game Gone Wrong.